They say love can build you up, or break you into 1,000 quiet pieces. For me, it started with the sound of garbage hitting a metal can. That's what love sounded like the night she threw my heart away. My name's Ethan. I'm 38 and I make things. Not spreadsheets, not PowerPoint slides, real things. I work with wood. I carve designs that carry stories. I build pieces that feel alive when you touch them. I wasn't always a craftsman. I used to wear a suit, sit in a downtown office, and talk about quarterly reports that never really meant anything. One day, after staring at my reflection in a window, tired eyes, fake smile, coffee in hand, I realized I didn't recognize myself anymore. So I quit. People thought I'd lost it. My parents worried. My friends joked that I'd gone full midlife crisis. But art made sense to me in a way life rarely did. When I carved, I wasn't chasing numbers. I was shaping feelings. And for a while, I believed that was enough. Then came Clara. She had this energy. Confident, graceful, the kind of woman who could walk into any room and instantly make people look. We met at a local gallery where I was displaying a few of my early pieces. She'd stopped in between real estate showings and said my work had soul. That word hooked me. Soul. Most people said rustic or cool or different, but Clara saw something else. We started talking. Coffee dates turned into long nights in my workshop, her sitting on the counter sipping wine while I worked. She'd tell me stories about her clients, $1,000,000 homes, rooftop parties, the kind of life I'd never lived. I liked that she came from that world but didn't judge mine, at least not at first. 3 years later, things had changed. Her business took off. She started hanging out with people who said things like networking over cocktails and branding your lifestyle. She still said she loved me, but sometimes it felt like she loved who I used to be, not who I was becoming. Little comments started slipping in. Like when we'd go out to dinner with her colleagues and someone would ask what I did, she'd laugh and say, "He's my artsy one." Or when she'd show me listings on her phone and say, "Can you imagine if we had a place like this and if you just made a few more sales?" I didn't sell my work to get rich. I did it because it meant something. But it was hard not to feel like I was falling short. So when our anniversary came around, I decided I'd show her how much she meant to me, not with something bought, but with something built. I spent 3 months carving a jewelry box from walnut wood I'd been saving for years. The grain had this dark, beautiful flow to it, almost like smoke frozen in time. Inside, I laid a mosaic pattern made of colored resin, tiny fragments that formed our initials intertwined. Every night after finishing client orders, I'd stay up late working on it, sanding, polishing, reworking the inlay until it caught the light just right. My hands were raw, my shoulders sore, but I didn't care. I imagined her opening it, smiling, seeing all that love made visible. When I finally finished, I set it under the lamp in my workshop. It glowed like something alive. I even added a small brass latch shaped like a heart. Not too sentimental, just enough to say, "This was made for you." That night, she came home late. Her heels echoed across the floor like a metronome of detachment. She was still on her phone, saying, "Tell them to push the offer to $550 and no contingencies." When she finally hung up, she sighed. "Sorry, babe. Work's insane right now." I smiled anyway. "I made you something." She turned, eyebrow raised. "Already? Our anniversary's next week, I know, but I couldn't wait." I handed her the box. She ran a manicured hand over the smooth lid. "This is wood?" "Walnut," I said. "Go on, open it." She lifted the lid. The inlay shimmered faintly, the resin catching light like stained glass. Her lips parted slightly. "You made this?" "Every bit of it." She hesitated, then said, "It's beautiful, Ethan, really, but it's kind of old-fashioned, don't you think?" I chuckled lightly. "It's meant to be timeless." She smiled, but not the way she used to. "You know I love that you're creative. I just wish you'd make things that fit our lifestyle more. Something modern, sleek." "Like the stuff I sell? Our lifestyle?" I asked quietly. She shrugged. You know, minimalist luxury. What clients expect, I forced a smile. I don't make things to impress clients, Clara. I make them to mean something. Her voice softened, but her eyes were somewhere else. Meaning doesn't always pay the bills. That night, after she went to bed, I stayed up in the workshop staring at the box. For the first time, it didn't look like love anymore. It looked like a question I'd been too afraid to ask. A week later, on our actual anniversary, she suggested dinner at the Haven, this rooftop place downtown where people wore their success like perfume. I wore my best blazer. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, but halfway through dinner, she was scrolling through her phone again. Clara, I said softly, could we just have one night where it's about us? She sighed. Ethan, this is my job. You can't just switch off when people are depending on you. I'm not asking you to switch off, I said, just to remember why you started turning it on. Her eyes flickered with irritation. You make everything so heavy. The rest of dinner passed in silence. 2 days later, I stopped by her office to surprise her with coffee. Her assistant looked confused. She left early. Said she had a showing. Weird, she hadn't mentioned one. I called her. No answer. Texted. Nothing. I drove home, and her car was already there. When I walked in, I heard laughter. Hers, but softer, warmer. Not the laugh she used with me anymore. It was coming from the kitchen. I stepped in quietly. Clara stood by the counter, a man's hand resting on her waist. He was tall, well-dressed, the kind of guy who belonged in her world. Ethan, she gasped, stepping back. This isn't... But it was. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. I just looked at her and said, you could have at least waited until the anniversary gift was cold. The man grabbed his jacket and left. Clara started crying, saying it just happened, that she didn't mean to hurt me. I looked at the jewelry box sitting on the counter. She grabbed it, desperate to prove something, and with one impulsive motion, tossed it into the trash. The sound echoed. That was the night I stopped loving her. The next morning, I packed my tools, my sketches, and left. She didn't try to stop me. For weeks, I went silent. I didn't answer her texts or calls. Instead, I poured everything into my work. The pain, the disbelief, the quiet rage. I built, and I built. Each piece was more deliberate, more honest. I carved boxes that felt alive, tables that told stories. One of my designs, a box much like the one she threw away, only darker, lined with black resin, caught fire online. People shared it, called it beautifully tragic. A boutique in Chicago reached out. Then a magazine. Then a gallery. Suddenly, the thing she called junk was the reason I was standing under gallery lights wearing a borrowed suit, surrounded by people who saw what she couldn't. The exhibit was called Reclaimed. Every piece in that collection was made from discarded wood, cracked, splintered, broken, transformed into something new. The jewelry box, her box sat under a spotlight in the center. The tag beneath it read, Handcrafted Memory, $10,000. On opening night, people walked around whispering words like intimate, haunting, and honest. And then I heard a familiar voice. Ethan? Clara. She looked just as I remembered, flawless, composed, but her eyes were different. When she saw the display, her breath caught. She stepped closer. Is that... Yeah, I said. That's the one, her eyes glistened. You made it into art. I just finished what was already broken, I said. She bit her lip. I didn't realize how much it meant to you, I smiled faintly. That's the thing about meaning. It's invisible until it's gone. She blinked, speechless. Before she could say anything else, the curator called me to the front. I walked past her, up to the small stage. The lights were warm on my face. The crowd quieted. I said, Every piece here was made from wood people considered useless, cracked, discarded, weathered beyond repair. But I've learned that beauty doesn't come from perfection. It comes from what's rebuilt after it's been broken. The audience applauded softly. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Clara turn away, wiping a tear before walking out, and for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. I felt peace. After the event, a collector bought the box. $10,000. But the real reward wasn't the money. It was closure. A few weeks later, I got a voicemail. It was Clara. Ethan, I saw your interview. I'm proud of you. I wish I'd understood what you were trying to show me. I didn't reply. Because sometimes silence is the only response that still honors the truth. Now, every morning I open my workshop windows, let the light in, and start again. I work with the same tools, the same wood, but with new hands. Steadier, surer. People still call me crazy for leaving a stable career. Maybe I am. But every curve I carve, every grain I smooth, reminds me, not everything discarded is lost, sometimes. What's thrown away just needs a different pair of eyes to see its worth, and sometimes what's broken becomes art. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories of love, betrayal, and transformation. This is Reddit Tale Vault, where every broken piece still has a story to tell.